So if everyone gets settled, this is our next talk about city bikes. Please welcome our speaker.
Okay, thank you all for coming. I'm Luis Esquerda. I'm a dinosaur. And many years ago, well, first a question: how many people here know about the bike sharing systems? Okay, that's huge. So many years ago, I had this problem that there was no Android app for the local bike sharing system in Barcelona. So whilst trying to create it, I found out that there was no open data available for me to build this app. So that's when I learned scraping, which is basically some piece of code that connects to a website, extracts information, and you do something with this data. So when I got all this information available for me, I created OpenBising, which was an Android app for the local bike sharing system in Barcelona. And when that was already working, I found that Barcelona was not the only city in the world with one of these bike sharing systems, and that many other cities all around the world had exactly the same problem, which is that there was no data available for developers to create apps or projects. So instead of creating more apps or more different cities, I created Citybikes, which is a bike-sharing network aggregator for as many cities as it can fit. Nowadays, this thing that started in Barcelona, it currently supports more than 480 cities in all the world. And it's grown into this by this Python library that started the project. The good thing about this Python library is that people can contribute these spiders for their own cities. So let's say a developer from Italy wants to add support for some cities in Italy. He will just contribute to PyBikes, which is the core part of the project. And I don't have to do the work for him. I don't have to code this. He will do it. He adds supports for his own city, or maybe it breaks, and he will do it. So that's the cool thing about the whole project. When you have an open API, then people can start creating many things around it. And this is an example of many different applications that work with Citybikes. And then we get to this point where nowadays we assume that data, open data or something, it's a reality. But this is the sad part of it. It's that more than half of all the information contained in Citybikes, it comes from scraping, and then only 42 are licensed actual sources. And so you probably know about open data and the buzzword it is. Many people, politicians, city councils, they talk about open data. They say open data, let's open things and so on, but somehow it doesn't relate with what's happening here. So the problem, and something I discovered, it's the companies running these projects, they are not opening up to developers. And that's the main issue with these guys. It's that, for instance, these are the ratings for an unofficial app for bike sharing, and they are terrible. And when you have the open API, all these apps have great ratings compared to the main project. For instance, this is a website of one of these bike sharing systems, and this is the map that they have on the website, and it's not an actual map. It's an image of a map, and you can't even click on it. They did that because they want they want to avoid people spidering this website. So what are they actually thinking? I mean, it doesn't work like that. So that's what some of these companies are doing in order to avoid releasing this information. I think this information, I mean, it's public transport information. It should already belong to us, and we should be able to participate in these projects on the way that we like, and that's what Citybikes it's been trying to do. So I will show some examples of things. This is a map of all the cities that the project currently supports. So this is the whole view of bike sharing as Citybikes sees it, and every splash or every green splash or every red splash, it's somebody either taking a bicycle or leaving it. So let's look, for instance, Barcelona. And we can actually see people using the system and thinking, okay, this is good. And this is not something that these companies even were thinking about it. Or for instance, let's say that we want to see the nearest stations near the university here in Brussels. So we will look for, it'll be Brussels. Oh. Show probably, yeah. So it found the network. Sorry, the internet, it's a bit slow. I should have known that. But we can now consult bike sharing system right on your terminal. And that's good. And that's something that the companies providing these services wouldn't provide by themselves, because they didn't even think that it's something that people would want. I mean, who would like to check bike sharing system on their terminals? Or some guy even created a Telegram bot using the Citybikes API. So let's look, and you ask the bot, okay, give me Brussels. He asks, I don't know, less than 1 kilometer, and he sends you where the stations are, and how many empty slots, free slots, everything. So the main point with all of this, and why it's important to me and why I'm developing this project, I mean, it's not about bikes anymore. It's about trying to show the companies, trying to show city councils all the benefits of releasing this information. So we hear a lot with open data. We hear things like, we are releasing information, but there are not enough people doing anything with all this information. And the main problem, it's not about the data they are releasing, it's the quality of it. And for me, this project shows that when you release quality data, that it's useful to people, people are eager to participate, even in a public project that it's funded with public or private money. And that's for me, that's the importance of the whole project. That these city councils should learn that people really want to improve things, not even if you are not hired to do it. And so, in a sense, this project, the main purpose of this project, in fact, it's disappearing, because so right now we have this is like a middle part. I'm extracting this information, I'm putting it out there in clear, but the best world, or the future world that we would like, is that Citybikes, it's not a necessary project. It will mean that all this information is already available for everyone. And at that point, when the project can finally be shut down, because the information is already out there, then I will think I will have completed the task. Another cool or important part, so what happens when you add a city to Citybikes? It's that suddenly, let's say there is a new system appearing in a city, when they get supported to the API, suddenly all the unofficial applications that there are on the market, they work with the city. So even the city council, in some way, they wouldn't need to create their own app, their own shitty app, usually. They can already use all the different many applications that are using it, and that's something really, really important, which is, in the end, it's the user choice. So as a user of one of these systems, you should have the right to use whatever application you want to use. You shouldn't be forced to use only the official one. Some will respect your privacy, some wouldn't, some would look nicer, or even you could develop your own because you don't like any of them. And having that choice, having that power, it's what it's all about. Thank you. I think we have plenty of time for questions.
So is there a set of APIs that you sort of support or have developed that you can say with a new scheme, you can say ahead of time, go to the city and say, right, whoever implements this needs to implement this set of APIs? And also sort of leading on from that, have you thought about sort of perhaps even implementing open design systems for the hardware that the schemes need to operate as well?
I'm really sorry. Can you repeat the question?
So
there was some noise.
Do you have like a preferred set of APIs that new schemes should adopt, ideally, so that you don't have to do the scraping? And are there people sort of implementing hardware for the actual bike sharing schemes themselves to adopt these APIs? So maybe an open design for that can actually publish the data.
Yeah. So it can be answered in two ways. For instance, there is a system called I think it's called Open Bike Sharing or something like that, and they are releasing some source code and some documentation on how to build these projects. And the other one will be about standardization or using the same format. And that's being done by some companies in the US and in Canada. And they are trying to do something a bit similar to GTFS, the Google Transport. So it's for bikes. And they started working on this like 2 years ago. And they found one problem, and it's that the Citybikes API, or the syntax that my API has, it's already supported. So they released a specification and nobody uses it. But it was good for the project because now I could add support. In fact, the person that added support is here in the room for this format. And suddenly all their systems are supported in Citybikes and they are out there. So somehow, without even trying, the Citybikes API syntax has managed to be the standard or the de facto standard. Which is, I think it's a cool way of doing a standard, just not trying to do it, just working on it and listening to the feedback and just keeping adding fields.
Hello. Hi, I'm a bicycle mechanic, and it's a very exciting project, the first I've seen of it. And I was wondering, though, how does the project aim to get the bicycles fixed, which is an ongoing problem with sharing bicycles. They always keep breaking.
So, what do you mean?
So the question is, with the City Bike project, how do the bicycles get fixed? Who fixes them, and how does that happen?
No. That's so the thing with all these bike sharing systems, they are like public-private run projects, and they completely ignore that this project exists. So they work on another level. So they usually have vans moving around. They pick the bikes, fix them. And they have their own way of looking at the world.
But City Bikes, the City Bikes one, like. They're not rent out own bikes. Oh, okay. It's just the API.
Hi. Here.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I almost forgot my question. Oh, yeah. You had like how many companies you scrape from? A couple of licensed and others. I would be interested in. I have like several questions. What does others mean? Yeah. So you have like others. What do you do with the others? Next question.
Okay.
The licensed one. Do you pay for them? Do they pay you, or how does it work? So what is the license about? And the scraping. So who does that? Does like for each city is a guy who updates the code, who gets the data of the website? And what did you actually do with the example you showed us, that they only publish a picture so that you don't, it's like makes it hard to get the data?
Yeah.
So, and what actually, especially from the unlicensed one, obviously, with the unlicensed one, do they complain? Do they say, hey, don't do that? Or are they just silent, look away, or not even aware of it?
Okay, so the cool part about these questions is that somehow they are all connected with each other, so it works. So the first one was about the licensing one, so this part of the slide that say others, right? Others mean private sources, so it's either a reverse engineered API or it's some JSON feed that it's feeding their website, and it doesn't, because it doesn't have a license. It's not documented. It's not. So really, you don't know what are the terms of this. It's just out there. And the second question was about if these companies are paying me or I'm paying for some. And no, they don't pay me, and I don't pay them also, obviously. Sometimes you had to pay to access some of this information. And when that happens, you just hook into their private API, because they always have an official client. So you take this official client, you look at what sources they are using, which websites, and you just pretend to be their own client and access that information, and that works. The third was problems. So obviously, when you are using private APIs, you will have problems. But the cool thing about this project is that it puts them in a bad position. Somehow this project is doing the work that they are not doing. So they don't want to be the bad guys that will appear on a local newspaper, like big company shuts down a nice guy that was trying to do a favor to the bike sharing users. So they just ignore it. I don't know, maybe some of them even ignored it completely, like they don't even know how it works or how that happens. I remember one day talking with one guy that was working for one of these companies as a technician, and he told me, oh, wow, you are the guy that did this. How do you access this information? I told you, I mean, you should know, right? And I think I forgot about the fourth question.
Maybe you guys can talk afterwards, because we're really out of time, and there's the next talk that's going to start in 2 minutes.
Okay.
Give him a big hand for the brilliant project.